Hello, everyone, and thank you, Amanda, and all of the folks on the Cogut team for organizing this event. As Amanda said, my name is Mark Suchman, and I'm a professor of sociology here at Brown. I hold a law degree as well as my PhD in sociology, and my research interests center on the sociology of law and the sociology of organizations. Broadly, I study the legal and the cultural templates that we use to think about organizational life in general and to think about innovation and entrepreneurship in particular. My fellowship project is an effort to make sense of a set of recent legal and cultural developments that I'm calling the new corporate personhood. I'll say a bit more about what I mean by this label in a minute, but to put the topic in context, my interest in corporate personhood was ignited, or perhaps I should say reignited, by a series of recent high-profile Supreme Court decisions, such as Citizens United and Hobby Lobby, which in one way or another extended First Amendment freedom of conscience-like protections to corporate as opposed to individual actions. The legal doctrine of corporate personhood is quite old, but what's new about cases like these are three interconnected reframings of corporate activity. So first, a willingness to see corporations as moral actors, not merely as commercial entities. A second, a willingness to treat corporations as extensions of the holistic personas of their owners, not merely as vehicles for limited joint purposes. And third, a willingness to grant corporations the constitutional rights accorded to individuals, not merely the statutory powers accorded to legal subjects. My argument is that the resulting new corporate personhood reflects a set of broader cultural themes, specifically a cultural celebration of entrepreneurship, an emphasis on organizational identity and identification, and a hunger for authenticity in economic life. To put it more simply, it's much easier to imagine that corporations embody person-like moral commitments when the archetype is Tesla and Elon Musk than when the archetype is General Motors, where the founders are all long gone and no natural person holds even 1/10 of 1% of the outstanding stock. So my project interrogates this trajectory from the old corporate personhood to the new in three interrelated ways. So through legal history, through cultural interpretation, and through philosophical reimagining. So my first objective is simply to trace the evolution of corporate personhood doctrine from the relatively familiar early developments of the early modern period and the Industrial Revolution to the more recent developments of the past 30 or 40 years, which certainly show up in legal thinking, but are not often incorporated into the history of this doctrine. The second component of my project will then link these legal changes to parallel changes in organizational theory, in popular culture, and in political rhetoric. And finally, the third component of my project is more forward-looking and more programmatic. We probably can't do away with corporate personhood entirely, but we may be able to nudge the new corporate personhood in healthier directions by injecting a more nuanced, more pluralistic understanding of organizational goals and values. Ultimately, I hope my project will suggest ways in which our legal and cultural imagination might more fully reflect the fact that most organizations aren't simply like-minded affinity groups or authoritarian personality cults. Instead, they're complex, diverse polities internally, and they're embedded in equally complex, diverse polities externally. So if we value deliberative democracy, our legal doctrine should recognize this diversity and channel it into responsive pluralistic discourse, not hide or suppress it behind an unhelpfully simplistic legal fiction. Thank you, and I'm very much looking forward to engaging in some responsive pluralistic discourse with all of my Cogut colleagues this year.